while I was there, I was thinking about Notre Dame and obviously thinking about this Notre Dame versus USC rivalry, or maybe the lack thereof in the future. I did make a video on this before you joined the channel with us here at Notre Dame on the Voice of College Football, and it was kind of just rumblings. You heard some stuff. The athletic director wasn't exactly committal to what was going on with the future of this rivalry. Now it seems like, with recent reports, that it's less likely to continue. I didn't know if you had any first thoughts here before we get going.
I mean, it's the rumblings have been there essentially for like the last month and a half. I mean, there's been rumblings that, and I don't know where it's originated. I don't know where the smoke is, but at some point, everybody started talking about this thing like it was a foregone conclusion. The USC was going to, for lack of a better word, bolt on the series. To put it, I guess, as nicely as I can say. I read that they're going to try and put a 1-year extension or something on it. Did you see that? Pat Forty had the big write-up today, which was the first time I'd ever seen anybody formally publish it from the national media. But I think it was the Clemson series where you really started to hear the rumblings, maybe the way that Pete Bavacqua said, we want to have another 100-year rivalry. And it's like, what do you mean another? Has something happened to the one we have right now? What? And then, now this comes out. I don't know, man. This is a giant bummer. I have big thoughts on USC with this. I am curious though. What are your thoughts? Because, I grew up in the 90s watching this rivalry, which was Notre Dame dominance. And then I became an adult in like 2003, right? I was 18. And I had seen no success against USC for for half of my adult life, right? The whole 2000s. And then I've seen it flip around. But have you ever known Notre Dame not to just dominate the series?
Admittedly, not particularly. Yeah, no, I have not. I obviously missed the Pete Carroll days at USC, and by the time Brian Kelly really got things rolling, they were kind of more so an afterthought. They had those years with Sam Darnold, Rose Bowl appearance and everything like that. So they were obviously a very good team and a very good program. But yeah, I have known it more so as a one-sided rivalry. And I get, as a college football fan, you have to be aware of the tradition and the history. So I would have never seen this coming, and I don't want it to go. But yeah, no, for me personally, it's really just been the last, what did you say it was before we got going? 10 of the last 14?
10 of the last 14 and 6 out of the last 7. I mean, if you want to know if there's what reason would they do this move? And if the roles were reversed and it was Pete Carroll era, or USC had won 10 of the last 14 and 6 out of the last 7, they wouldn't be looking to get out of this football game. Absolutely not. This is pure and utter cowardice from USC. I mean, their whole assumption is that they're looking at this game like a loss. And what we were talking about before, this game should be seen as an opportunity for USC, and they're not looking at it that way.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the point of me not knowing this rivalry like being extremely close or being one-sided the other way, because that's the whole point. Is like, not all the time are you going to get these rivalries where it is truly back and forth. Both teams at the top, like Florida State, Florida, and like the 90s and stuff like that. Like, that's not common. There are so many rivalries that have, ebbs and flows and swings.
Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, Ohio State had like a decade of dominates, and then like the Cooper era, right, for Ohio State, but now Michigan's, had a run. Yeah, it's ebbs and flows like that.
And it's like that, and it's like there's no reason to just not believe, based off of past history, that USC can't get to a point where they're on the other side of this. And that is what's the most disappointing thing ever, because hiding behind kind of the mileage or just going to the Big Ten, stuff like that, other types of college football politics, whenever it's just really like could be really summed up in the fact that if you lose 10 of the last 14 and you couple it with the other stuff, well, then maybe you would want to go, but it still doesn't make sense. What is so great too about these rivalries when they are in a swing like that is when USC were to pull off an amazing upset over Notre Dame, that ignites a year for them, a season, gets the ball rolling for the transfer portal in the winter. Like, that is like a big deal, a big thing. And to throw that away, I think is not smart. It's not looking ahead far enough. It's just really assessing what is going on right now, and it's just giving up an opportunity at being great, playing great football, and keeping something alive for tradition. But also, I mean, come on, it's Notre Dame, USC. You're making money.
It's gone back since 1924. It has gone back since 1924. And if we've learned anything about USC over these past 2-3 years, it's the incredible level in which their athletic department behaves in the most unscrupulous way imaginable. They destroyed the Pac-12 conference, one of the oldest and most respected conferences in all of sports, the most gold medal winners, the most All-Americans, one of the most prestigious conferences in all of athletics. USC was instrumental in destroying. And they did it for Big Ten dollars. And no remorse with that. And then you take this Notre Dame series, and because you've signed up for this Big Ten schedule in which you're playing in Piscataway, New Jersey now, instead of, Berkeley, California, or Palo Alto, right? You're playing in Piscataway, and you're playing at State College, and you're like, well, there's travel expenses now. We got to cancel this Notre Dame. You took extra money, killed a conference, and now you're going to kill a 100-year rivalry so you can collect money from the carpetbaggers in the Midwest. The Big Ten just comes and destroys a conference, and now they're going to destroy a game that's been the longest and most storied intersectional rivalry in all of sports. And, it might be the biggest. You can make an argument like Celtics, Celtics Lakers, but it's not as long standing as Notre Dame USC. It's like it's in movies. It's part of the program. It's intertwined with their history, and they're going to blow it up for this Big Ten money because ultimately they're too scared of losing the game coupled with a Big Ten schedule.
And even somebody from my perspective, like, I get that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like not lost on the history is not lost on the fact that this has just been one-sided series for the recent history. Like that.
I wasn't there for the Trojan horse green jersey game, right? I wasn't there for that. And I mean, I wasn't there for Pat Hayden's comeback victory against Notre Dame. Like, I wasn't there for these moments. I wasn't there for a majority of the 1-2s or the, national championships lost and won with that game. I wasn't there for any of that. But like you said, like, we study the history, and that should mean something still, especially in a sport like college football, where what separates it from everything else is the history. And when you throw it out, you're just making some like watered down version of the NFL that no one wants. Nobody wants that. It's just
they don't have what makes college football different and special from the NFL is rivalries, atmospheres, stuff like this, games like this, where maybe in today's college football, sure, it doesn't need to happen. It doesn't actually need to take place outside of the postseason. But that's what makes it so great is that it still does, or it's one more season. And it's supposed to ignite fan bases, recharge programs and create these amazing moments that the NFL, while it is the juggernaut and it's, America's game in a sense, just simply doesn't have, especially in the regular season. Like, I genuinely think, now maybe this isn't the case for Notre Dame USC, but it's certainly the case for other rivalries, that there are fan bases that genuinely hate each other. That is around college football. And it's just one more little taken away as the game moves and progresses to a state that's almost unrecognizable.
It's sanitizing it, right? It's creating this like sanitized hospital, like the NFL is like home, the home games for a lot of it's mostly sanitized. You look at the Super Bowl, right? Corporate event, completely sanitized. And when you remove these weird things and rivalry trophies disappearing, right? Like Jewel Shillelagh gone. And it's like, what are we doing? And, it doesn't, you don't have to do that. We talked about this pre-show. It's like if USC, let's say they are 9-2 and they've lost to, let's just say Ohio State and Penn State, and they beat the rest of their schedule and Notre Dame's the last game of the year. They're kind of a fringe bubble team. right? At that point for the playoff at 9-2, you didn't beat the two best teams you played on your schedule. Like, do you get in, or do we take the fourth or fifth best SEC team instead of you? A win against Notre Dame in that spot, boom, you have a win against the Notre Dame team that proven has been one of the 25 at minimum best programs, but usually around top 15, top 10, and now hopefully top 5 program. And you get that win. It's a statement win, and it puts you in the playoffs. Or you look at it and you go, well, we're kind of a fringe team. And if we end the season with Fresno State instead, that's a free win. Then we're 10-2, and let's just kind of hope chaos breaks out. So they're taking the coward's route. So instead of trying to propel yourself and make a statement and have a signature victory, you're like, I'm more scared of losing than I am winning that game, so I'm going to pass. And that's why I say the 10 out of 14, 6 out of 7 comes into play, because if this is Pete Carroll USC and you are routinely destroying Notre Dame in football games, you're not getting rid of the series. You're like, yeah, you can come play.
And I'm glad that you brought up the playoff seeding, because that's why I just think this is so short-sighted. And I completely agree, before I move on to that point, with if it was flipped, just no doubt in my mind, would there be this like delusion almost of USC is going to keep beating them for 20 more years. Let's sign this deal. Let's get this done. And let's make sure that we get that win. There's no doubt in my mind that it would be completely different the other way around, like whatsoever. But the seeding thing, I think, is so important, because we're only 1 year and going into the second year of the 12-team playoff. Let's not be so short-sighted on how the seeding works, how this process is going to continue on, and how these teams are going to develop, how these programs are going to develop. We just saw it with Indiana last year. You could lose to the top teams in your conference, not make that conference championship game, and you are not counting wins. You are counting where you are seated compared to those other teams. Like, your resume will be compared to those other teams as it would have been in a 14 playoff, as it would have been in any other year, and they need to be very careful of that. I think the conventional wisdom is, if I'm a 10-2 Big Ten team, I'm going to make it no matter what. And look at last year, that's going to definitely be the case probably. But what if there's 2 Big 12 teams that are serious contenders? Like you mentioned, like the 4th or 5th SEC team. I mean, the Big 12 kind of had a really weird year where they only got like one team in, obviously, and that was the team that won their conference championship game. But like, that could be something to factor in as well. Like, this is going to be a continuously evolving system, and these teams can now pop up way quicker than they could before. Why wouldn't you want to build your program up, have a very tough schedule, and have that be what you end up getting into the playoff with? Like, if they lose to Notre Dame and they are an elite team and they are 9-3, there is like really no actual penalty for that. Like, I really do think with the human aspect in this playoff that it brings you more to lose this game rather than just simply not play it. It is, if you get to that point where USC is an actual playoff team.
Yeah, because they got to get there first.
Yeah,
because they've never been to the playoffs. I mean, it's been you can dunk on Notre Dame for not having won a national championship since 1988. You certainly can do that, and you're welcome to it. And if I were a fan of a team that had won a championship from 88, I would be doing the same thing. But what you cannot do is you cannot deny that over the last 15 years, Notre Dame has been one of the 6 or 7 most successful programs in college football. 2 national title appearances, 3 trips to the playoffs. It's just, you can't argue with it. They haven't won a national title. They've played in 2 games. USC hasn't done any of that. They've never been to a playoff. They haven't played for national titles. They haven't done anything. And so, if USC fans want to, crow about that kind of stuff, they're certainly welcome to it. But in the last 15 years, Notre Dame has been substantially the more successful program.
And if you had told them that, well, I don't want to say 15 years ago, but let's say 20, there probably would have been a lot of skepticism to that point. Could they get to a point where they are truly national championship contenders again? Like, there would be a lot of skeptical people out there saying that was probably not going to be possible again, or it had been so long. And you currently could have said that, during the Brian Kelly era too, at plenty of times. And
they'd have a trio of Notre Dame players gracing the cover of the 2006 SI, college football preview. If there's I think it was Time to Shine. Was that it? Somebody's going to correct me in this video. But yeah, but they were skepticism back then, and Rick Riley famously wrote the op-ed in 2012 saying Notre Dame, sneaks over and whatever. And I don't know. I just think that it's a very cowardly way to look at a team that's good and duck from it. You just saw Notre Dame sign a deal with Clemson, probably to hedge some of the bet. Afterwards, it came out that game's not going to count against the allocated amount of ACC games. Do you see that? So
yeah,
they'll still have to play a full ACC schedule on top of playing Clemson. And so what does that mean for the Stanford series? Because then you have a Stanford game, which I don't know if that counts against your ACC allocated amount. So every season you might be playing 7 ACC teams, maybe 8 some years. So I don't know.
That does get a little bit rough from the Notre Dame perspective, but I got they have such great home and home series, and they got plenty lined up that I'm not really too nervous about that from their perspective. I keep going back to this younger Notre Dame fan thing because I thought it was interesting when we talked earlier about how excited I was for when they played Michigan again, and it was just something that excited me. And I didn't even really think too much of the USC rivalry. Obviously it was there, but I wasn't as excited as I remember being in those 2 games. And it was just this Clemson kind of almost pseudo rivalry does excite me, but still it's just one of those things where it's well, both of these teams are good. So of course it is exciting in the moment because I don't know what Clemson is going to be post Dabo.
That's exactly it. I do have some trepidation about it because I don't know. I know what Clemson was pre-Dabo. I don't know what Clemson would look like post-Dabo. And maybe he's a lifer, and he is accepting more from the changes to the game with he signed transfer portal players this year. It's a very, very big step for him.
Round of applause.
Yep. Thank you, Dabo. But yeah, he's got a team this year that looks like it should be one of the 5 highest ranked teams in college football to start the year. Clemson should be. Everybody's got Cade. I don't know how good Cade Klubnik's going to be, but you keep showing up and being a former 5-star. You do get those accolades when it's finally your year to do it. So it's what are we going to get?